but it's called the accent layering. And this is one of the best things that you can do to your lead sound. Really, it's just so good. I love it so much. It's really easy to use, and it's going to level up your leads, trust me. So quite often in my music production journey, I feel like my leads are kind of boring, they are weak, not as professional as I want them to sound. So if you can relate to this, if you really want to level up your leads and make them more powerful, more professional, this video is for you. So I will be showing you my tracks. This is like a real life scenario, a real life example, so you can really feel how that would sound in a real track. And for those of you who are new to your channel, my name is Vlad and I create superstar music producers. And without further talking, let's get straight into the video. So, as always, let's start with my beautiful presentation. So tip number one is going to be analog synths. So I can't stress it enough. There's a big difference in terms of the sound between digital and analog synths. So in order to get a powerful sound with Serum or with those kind of synthesizers, you would need to put a lot of processing onto the sound, which it's fine. It's just the way they are, and it's totally cool. I love digital synths. I love analog synths. So what is the solution really at this point? So solution is combining digital and analog synth, and when you do so, you are able to achieve a fattest sound. So my favorite analog synth is Diva, but again, feel free to replace it with the analog synth that you have. Maybe it's a real hardware or something like that. So let's talk about the very first example. So what I want to show you is going to be a little loop here that I'm going to play for you. So this is the loop. And then first I'm going to play the digital synth, and then after that I will play the analog one. And then we will combine them and you'll see a difference. Actually, that was the other way around. That's the analog synth, and then there's going to be the digital one. So there's quite a bit of a difference. The second one is a little bit too thin. I mean, I do like the sound, but it's a little bit too thin, right? Once we combine those two sounds, we get the best from both of the worlds, right? So let's check out how that sounds all together. And once again, with the drums. So that's going to be the first tip. Very simple, but very effective strategy. You can also Google free analog VST synths. There's a lot of them. I Googled before the tutorial, a lot of free stuff that you can download. Okay, now let's talk about the second tip. It's one of my top time favorite ones. So Octave jumps. This is something that I just discovered accidentally. It's really good for arpeggios. It's really good just overall for lead sounds if you're using something plucky, snappy, and so on. So basically what we have to look at is going to be the power note, right? So it's going to be the main one, the one which is lower in the register. And then we want to sort of spice it up and jump in between the octaves. And it's really easy, and it just sounds so good. Let me show you one of my tracks where I used it, and then I'm going to show you in this project. So the track is something that I made in 2020. Yeah, 2020. It's not finished, it's not mixed, but just the idea that I want to show you. So this is one of the examples, right? Again, just to emphasize and stress it, we have the power note and then we have the octave jumps. So what I'm going to do right now is I will show you the same pattern. So this is exactly the same pattern that I used for that track. And first, I just want to play the way it is. I mean, without the octave jumps, right? So just the note, just the original one. Let's play it. Now with the kick. It still sounds pretty good because the sound itself is pretty nice, but if we put it one octave higher, we are going to add variation to the sound. It's going to be more interesting, like, and overall just more diverse, right? Now let me use the bass line. It's gonna be like conflicting a little bit, but that just so you can get the vibe here. So let's check with the bass line, just so you have sort of like a feeling how that would sound with the bass line. And for example, we could also check how that would sound in a club, right? So let's give it a quick test here. So for example, we can check the club settings, and this is sort of the club environment. So let's check the lead sound here. I think it's a little bit too loud, I guess. So a very, very simple technique to use, and you can use it on the bass line. You can use it pretty much everywhere. So I really, really love this tip, so make sure you utilize it as well. And then let me combine the previous technique with this one as well. So we can layer the digital and the analog synth, and let's see how that's gonna sound. So you can combine these techniques that I'm talking about in this video, and you can get like really, really amazing results. So let's talk about the next one. 16th and 32nd grid. This is something that I discovered like accidentally, and I see there's a huge trend in the music production industry right now. So basically, this one is really, really simple, but it's so good, and you can do a lot with different grid size. So again, I learned this technique by playing an instrument like a guitar and stuff like that. It really teaches you how to work with different rhythms. So playing instruments is very beneficial. I play quite a few, and it's taught me so much. Like, you can really learn so much more about music if you start playing a real instrument. So let's talk about this technique in more detail. So I have this bass pattern. And if you look, so these ones, it's 1/32nd, right? So if you listen to the bass line, it's just one example. Let's do without the drums. It really adds a lot of groove to the track. I'll show you some examples where I used it in my own tracks. So it's one example. Now let me show you, I think it should be, 32nd grid. So if you listen to the plucky sound in this track, you will really understand how that could sound in your music. It might be a little bit too quiet, but pay attention to how it's sounding like. So the plucky sound. So it's like this kind of sound. I really like it. And another example would be this track, but this time I'm using the technique on the percussion on, like, I think it's clave. It's called the clave. Like, it's a percussion sound. So pay attention to the grid size. Oh, wait, that was a bit too much. Like this little sound. So you can hear it's like tin tin tin, this kind of like I just love this sound. It's so cool. Like it's very simple to use, but then again, just experiment with different grid sizes, because this is something that could take your lead sounds, like sound design wise, music theory wise, to the next level. Super simple to use, but then again, I'm just trying to give you the best and the most useful advice that works for me, and those are my theory techniques. There's more stuff coming later, so let's talk about the next one. Organic layering. This is like so far probably the number one thing that I do in my music that makes my sound unique. So it will give you very, very interesting results. And quite often, like in some of the tracks, I'm just feeling people could use organic sounds more often, because I use it pretty much in every single track. Sometimes not, but like 80-90%. I use organic layering. So basically the logic is going to be very simple. We're going to have a synth, and on top of that we're going to have an organic instrument. So then you can really play with the rhythm, and you can do something like this. Maybe you can just accentuate this one. Again, like it's really going to depend on the workflow, on the sound that you want, and so on. But the concept, the big idea is very simple: organic layering. So let me show you some of the examples that I did here. I think it is, it's going to be a couple of tracks here. So pay attention to the lead sounds, how they sound, and try to sort of break down the layering, what kind of instruments you can hear in the track. Let's start with the first one. So this is example number one, right? You can really feel that I'm using organic instruments to emphasize and to accentuate the main melody. Another example would be this, another track. Yeah, I love this tune so much. It's like really early spring, maybe summer vibe, something like that. Because like right now it is autumn, really cold, really dark, and this is such a bright tune. I love it a lot. So again, another example, I'm using saxophone to emphasize the melody. Okay, let's talk about the next one. So quite often I'm just using organic instruments. So sometimes like I'm layering sounds, but quite often I can just use organic instruments. But then again, all the techniques that I'm talking about here, you can combine all together. This is like the beauty of this video, that you can combine literally everything together, and the more you combine, the more interesting your track will sound like. Okay, let's do another example. So this is going to be, so I layered, I think it's guitar-like instrument, a flute, brass instruments, was like a trombone, a trumpet, something like that, and then maybe something else. It's another example. Again, I layered brass instruments, and then I think it should be one more track. Yeah, this is another example. Again, I'm using flute. I'm using the oud, which is the Turkish instrument. I really, really like it. again, another example. So let's talk about the next one. Rhythmic organic layer. So basically this was the track which used this technique. It's sort of like a combination, but this technique is going to be very, very simple. So let's say we have the pad sound, we have a synth sound, and then you have a rhythmic, let's say like we could use guitar. If you have a guitar, that would work really, really well. I also have the oud. I'm going to put a picture somewhere here. So a rhythmic layer can really, really support the groove and make your tune sound more unique. And it is really all about the groove. If you listen to the to this one, let's listen with the drums. So it's basically like you can do like a little riff on the guitar and then just put that under the track and it will just sound amazing. Like it will sound amazing. And once you combine it with the same groove, right? So you can accentuate different notes, which we're going to talk about just in a second, right? You can accentuate that. It's just going to sound amazing. So I think to show you some other examples, we could say it's going to be this one. Pay attention to the rhythmic guitar-like sound, the oud. This is one example. Then another one is going to be this. This is a combination of organic layering and a rhythmic organic layer, right? Actually, it's quite similar, but it's a bit different. It's a bit different, trust me. So rhythmic organic layer, this is going to be this one. Another example would be this. Right, you can see this is what you can do with real instruments. So guys, record more, like just play instruments more. It's gonna sound really amazing. Another example would be this. Don't remember what this track was. Oh yeah. Again, like same logic. And then another one would be this. Let's listen to the drum. Again, same logic. The concept that I want you to understand is you can layer something below the main synth, which is supporting the drum group, whether it's a shaker, it's a percussion loop. So layering accents is very important. Let's talk about the next step. This one is going to be very, very straightforward. So multiband saturation, this is like, if the previous one was more about like arrangement, composition and stuff, multiband saturation is going to be more about like sound design. So let's say we don't have enough low mids and mids. So with multiband saturation, we can rebalance plus add power to the sound. And this works for literally anything, whether it's going to be like the bass sound, the lead sound. Let me show you an example. I'm going to use this on my bass sound, but feel free to use it on anything that you want. So the bass line sounds like this. This is the bass line. Let's turn the saturation off. Like very, very thin. With this one, we can really control the amount of sub, then the amount of mids, if you need more mids, if you need more sub, but we don't need more sub, it's gonna be way too much. But again, you can rebalance instruments and sounds very, very easily with saturation. It's, again, super simple technique, works on leads. I'm going to show you another example, which is going to be on this lead sound. Again, look at this. Turn it off. Turn off the reverb. And then we can really easily rebalance the sound and build and sculpt the sound that you want, that you imagine in your head. It's almost like OTT, but to a bit different manner. But again, the logic is pretty much the same. Super easy technique to use, multiband saturation, or, you know, think of something similar. I just really, really recommend this plugin because I love it. I use it in every single project. So yeah, that was the technique. Very, very simple. You know, I think I did not have any specific examples besides like the one that we just talked about. Okay, let's talk about the next step. Is one of my top favorite ones. Again, I pretty much love all of the techniques, but it's called the accent layering. And this is one of the best things that you can do to your lead sound. Really, it's just so good. I love it so much. It's really easy to use and it's going to level up your leads, trust me. So we have the main melody, which is going to be this. And all we really need to do is split it into multiple layers. And then we need to put accents on the key notes, on the notes that you want to emphasize, that you want to accentuate, right? Sounds amazing with organic layering, so let me show you an example. This is the track that I'm working on right now, and it features a lot this. So, for example, listen to the layering here. I think it should come a bit later. Organic instruments again, and I have two layers, the one which is playing the main melody and the it's diva and spire, so basically two layers, but I think I can show you another part. It's exactly the same melody, but all I'm doing here is putting little accents. Just it. Same melody, everything is the same. I'm just putting more accents onto the into the arrangement, basically, right? I can show you another example, which is going to be somewhere. I think it should be somewhere here. Right, and then I think it should. Yeah, this one. Again, same logic. All I'm doing is I'm changing the, not changing, I'm just putting an accent with the same melody, same notes, but with a different synthesizer, with a different sound. And this alone can just level up your production game. Really, check it out. Tin, 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 tin. Right, again. So you see, this is what is really happening behind the scenes. This is one of the best ways to make your melodies sound more interesting at the end of the day, right? So the main melody, and then we have the accent on specific parts of the melody. Really, really cool. I just love it so much. Really simple to use it. Like all of the techniques that I'm talking about is like really, really simple to use, but it took me a good amount of time to really understand how to use it, right? Okay, now let's talk about, this is more advanced stuff, and it will require a lot of creative thinking and creative, we can say power, right? Creative energy. So the storytelling method, this is what I call it, and this is how I like structuring my tracks. So we have the full track length, right? Version number 1 is going to be pretty chill. Version 2 is like maybe some same energy or something like that, right? Version 3, again, like amount of energy, the amount of power in those will really, really depend on the track itself. But what I really, really love doing at the end is like to climax, just give people the like, boom, like the hardest drop possible, right? And what we are doing here is we're changing the MIDI, we are layering, we are changing the accents, we are changing the energy I talked about, and automation. So once again, Example of this track would be, if you listen to the first drop right here, the melody is one thing. And all I'm doing in the next sections, I'm keeping the same sounds, but I'm changing the MIDI. And then in the second drop, very similar, but this is sort of version number 1 and then version number 2, 3, whatever is like the thing, right? So this is one thing. And then there's even more than that. So this is first part. This is again the next section of the track. So I'm basically, all I'm doing here is I'm going up in terms of the energy. So we are going up, and this is the thing that you want to do. This is really, really the key. Okay, so in terms of the energy, this one is very energetic. This one is slightly like less energetic. So we could say it's pink, right? And then the last section of the track is going to be very, very energetic. So if you listen to the energy again, look at the diagram, I'm climaxing at the end. And this is exactly what is happening at this point, right? So listen to the track. I'm just vibing to this tune. Really, really cool track. So yeah, this is really all about the storytelling method. So we have 2 more tips to talk about in this video, so stay tuned, it's going to be amazing. The next one is going to be the mid-side sound design. So this one is fairly simple, but it can get a little bit complex. So if we talk about the logic, so mid-side sound design is really all about how do I design the mono part and how do I design my stereo part, right? So by looking at this diagram, it's obviously one of the ways and one of the suggestions from my end that you can use for your music is, for example, we could have the main mono layer, and then on top of that, we could have a wide layer. And then this one is going to be a little bit more about the numbers. So let's say from 20 till 300 to 500 hertz, I would generally make it mono. Again, it's not a rule, just see what works best for your track. And everything that is above here, right? So this part, so from 300 to 500 hertz and up to 20K. This is the part that you can widen. This is the part that you can really make wide, right? And to make it sound even more interesting, we can saturate the wide layer, and this is going to sound so good. So let's jump back into the project, and I'm gonna show you how it sounds like. So first, I wanna show you the sound, how it sounds on its own. So this is the sound. Let's listen for the bass. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is going to be mid-side EQ. So you can see that I'm filtering everything, the mono part of the sound. So this is the mono EQ. I'm basically just cutting off the sound here. And then all I have here is going to be the stereo. And because of that, so listen to the sound. Yes, it has lost its low end, but we didn't even need it that much, right? And then once we do a bit of saturation, as I've shown you, see how wide it becomes. So this part is mono. I'm saturating mono here. If you're using the same plugin, it's going to be mid-side, left, right. So mid-side. So I'm going to go somewhere here with the... So this part of the saturator, it saturates the side information, and because of that, the sound feels really wide. So again, we could listen in the mix, how it sounds like. So it's pretty wide. So if I don't use saturation here, Like still not bad, but kind of weak. Right, so that's the technique. Super simple. Just all comes down to designing the side part of the sound and designing the mono part. This is really important. This is something that is going to take your sound design to the next level. Trust me, this is going to improve your sound design a lot. All right, and then let's talk about one final thing that is going to basically end this video wrap up. It's going to be Foley rhythmic textures. This is very similar to the organic layering. So let's say we have the synth sound, which is playing like this, and we can put the Foley texture. It can be like any like rhythmic texture, really. It doesn't matter the sound that you use here. So by putting the sound underneath the synthesizer, it can really improve the groove and make it much more interesting. So let's jump back into the project, and then I'm gonna show you the sound that I'm working with. So let's remove all the processing. This is the original sound that I used here. So you can see I selected everything, and then by clicking on, let's see, like this, right? Then you want to quantize that, right? You can select different quantization settings. And by doing that, we are making sure that it works well with the synthesizer. So by looking at the notes here, right? So these are the notes. So if you put them in a way, like for example here, that the rhythmic texture is supporting the synth, it will really improve the groove in your track. It's a little thing, but it can make it so much more interesting. So let's check it out. I want to show you the original sound. It's the sidechain, I think, yeah. And once I do like, even just like this without any warping here. Well, let's go back, warp the sample. So I'm gonna select everything, then click on Command or Control plus U, and then just quantize that. You see, it's really cool already. And by doing that, by layering very specific accents, say like these notes, by layering those together, like it will sound so amazing. Like you will love that. And it's so simple to use. Like all the techniques that I'm talking about is so simple to use, right? So we can jump back here and then listen with and then you can be pretty creative with filtering, with processing and stuff like that. So yeah, that was pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope that was helpful. I hope that you learned something new in this tutorial. Thank you very much for watching. For those of you who stayed till the end, really appreciate that. Really means a lot to me. And yeah, that's going to be it. If you're interested in coaching, if you want to work together, all the links are down below. And I see you guys in the next one.